Good afternoon. Welcome to the Big Dam. This is your boy Bobby Hill. Nice to meet. Nice to be back in here with y'all today. Hope everything's going good, well with everybody. Hope you had a successful, and decent, positive week. Like I always say, I hope you one step closer to your goals, one step closer to your dreams, one step long term, short term, and no matter. I hope you one step closer to them. As always give us love. Shout out to my lovely wife, Sandra Hill. Like I said, she's my rock, my backbone. We going through this thing together. Like I said, it's tough. It's ups and downs. There's always tests out there. We always out here. Making sure our marriage is strong. That can withstand everything. So just we in this together. I'm gonna tell our lover, and we doing this. You know. So I like to happy Friday to everybody. So I hope everything is going well. I had thought about trying to. I was gonna do something yesterday, but I had a little. We had a little incident. I was gonna talk about it yesterday up here, but I had to give it a chance to settle in because it was fresh. And it, it had a potential to go one way, but luckily, you know, was able to you know keep things in order and things didn't no things didn't end as bad. What I'm describing was like 2 nights ago, early in the morning, my wife wake me up and says that those she heard someone knocking at the door, like knocking hard, like the police. That knock. So I get up and I went to the door and I see I look through the door and I see a young a man. It ain't a young man. It was like a middle aged man. He was bald headed, Hispanic man. He was talking erratic, like he was talking to somebody, like he was, like he was afraid of somebody. Like, let me in. Somebody's after me. That's how he was acting and stuff. This was 4:30 in the morning. So I just sat there. Wife was, she was, your adrenaline started pumping, but so hers started. She like, don't go outside. So I was sitting there holding the door, and he kept on knocking loud, talking and stuff. And she she screamed for her son, my stepson, to come down. He came down. He came down. He had a 20-pound weight, a knife, ready for war. But I told him to chill out. I said, "No, chill out. Just just like see, basically just make sure your mom is okay. I got this. Just make sure your mom." So he was still not. He was still doing that. I told her to call 911. And she did. She was on the phone with him and stuff. And then all of a sudden, he just. I didn't see him exactly when he did it, but I seen the effect because he just like also almost like he rammed his shoulder into the door and he broke the door, like broke the door. And I had to, and I'm, holding the door and making sure that I held it. I had to put my weight on it. I had to put all 260 pounds of it on it and make sure he didn't do nothing. I had to get like, it's almost like I was doing football when I had, when you hold the little shield and you're on defense and somebody preparing for contact, you brace yourself. That's what I had to do to that door. So I did that. He after that, I told her she broke the door. I mean, he broke the door, and then he left. He left, went across the street. I kept on holding it and stuff, and I was talking to the guy. He gave me the phone, and I talked to the 911 operator, and I was telling him everything I saw and stuff, and he had left. So the cops had came, and and they found him, and he had like a bruise on his head, and he was just really erratic. And it was two women officers, and they did their thing. That was, they was on top of it. Told them what was going on, and they went down, and they found him. Told us that he had, he had a combination of drugs. So whatever combination he had, it didn't mix well, and he was having a psychotic episode. So I mean, I knew it when I was listening to him, what he was acting like. I'm like, this man, something going on. He crazy or something. He ain't trying to get in here because he's acting like he knows somebody in here and he don't, and he just having a psychotic episode and stuff. And things ended up. They got him. They put him. I think they so bad they couldn't take him to jail because they charged him with criminal mischief because I held the door. If he had gotten to the house, he could have been breaking and entering, but he didn't get it to that far because I held the door. So, and they took him to the mental hospital. They ain't heard nothing from him. They said it was like they was going to press charges. You'll hear back from property crimes and all that. So yeah, and it ended up like that. It was tension. It was very heightened. Luckily I was able to stand strong at the door and use. This was he was having a big body helps. He was not able to come in and stuff, and something tragic could have happened. You know, and I laugh about it. It's crazy, and because the reason why it's funny is because imagine this. Me personally, it's just my preference. It's my preference. I'm chilling. I'm chilling. We chilling. That's where I like to get down. But I like to sleep the way I came into this world. You know, as Bernie Mac would say, bucket naked. So I like I was So whenever she called me, she got my wife got out of bed. I mean, she don't. I mean, she wasn't. I mean, she don't close. I want to need all business, but I ain't put all business. I'm saying, but she was dressed. I was. So she ran out. She on the nightgown too. She said, "Babe, babe, somebody at the door." So I heard it again. So I just run out and jump. I jump out and run to the door. So all this stuff, all this time, this stuff would happen, and itself, by the when the time he left. From the time I got out, from the time he left, like I said, when he tried to break the door, he couldn't, and he left out. From that time, from the time I got out to that time, I was butt naked holding that door. Oh yeah, I looked like that damn. I looked like there wasn't no lights on the house, all dark. You couldn't see that. I looked like that character on Mortal Kombat. I think his name was called Noob Saibot. Look him up if you don't know. Yeah, I was doing all that butt naked, and I was like, which is crazy. Which is crazy because I was like, if this man had broken into this house or did something like this, yeah, I would have had to, defend it, man. Imagine being somebody riding down the street. It's 4:30, 5 o'clock in the morning, man. You either going to work or coming from work or whatever, man. Whatever you doing that time of morning, man. Imagine you riding by and all of a sudden you see a big, dark-skinned, naked man beating a Hispanic man on the damn out here. That would have been a sight to see. Yeah. But luckily that like I said, luckily ain't nothing happened. And I said after he left and stuff, my wife bought me some shorts, put my shorts on, put on a shirt, and then talk to the officers, and they handled their business. So and then everything came and got the door fixed. Everything was good. That was very unexpected, traumatic experience at 4:30 in the morning. Yeah. So, and actually, it's funny how life repeats itself because I can remember when I was younger. That happening when I was a kid. That it was around Christmas. We stayed on. People know Clinton. We stayed on Phillip Street. We were young. It was around Christmas or around whatever, and we're little kids, and this guy, I guess he had been drinking and stuff. You could hear him because of the wall. I mean, we didn't have a lot of insulation in a small house. You can hear people yelling. He was all loud and stuff. And he came into the house. He didn't come into the house. He came to the house, started knocking on the door real loud, calling my father's name, Bobby, come on. So, my father got that tool on him and went outside. Luckily he didn't have to use it, and he got the man away and come back into the house. So yeah, that's stuff like that happens sometimes. Just unfortunately, man. I just fortunately, able to keep a level head and be able to handle the situation and not lose it or make the situation worse than it was and make it because it would have been tragic if that man would have had to lose his life. Because if he'd have stepped across that down threshold of that front door, that would have happened. And I'm just being honest, man, because I don't play like that. People who break in people's houses, they are playing Russian roulette. That's all I'm saying. Especially this day and age and this day and time, and especially in Texas. And that's why I told the officer, I was like, man, she was like, 'cause I guess he's had like this before. He's had psychotic episodes like this before. And she was like, how many more times? And I told her, I said, yeah, you might need, I'm saying, you know, he in Texas. You can't do that for so many more times. Next time you might do that. The next homeowner might not be. Hey, look, I'm just saying. He in Texas. I'm just saying. But yeah, other than that, like I said, that was a wife couldn't go back to sleep, stepson couldn't go back to sleep. I mean, they just it was crazy. So we got like I said, finally got the door fixed, so that was good. So just things happen. It's part of life, man. Just things happen, man. Just like you just sometimes you just have to roll with the punches, keep it going. Don't sit there and dwell on it and say, "Oh my God!" Nah, you just prepare. You learn from it. You take what the information that you got, learn from it, see where we can improve. If we need improvement, and just move forward, man. So you can't get caught up on stuff too much. So it's just like I said, luckily I ain't have to, they ain't have to do anything. They ain't have to have a physical altercation and nothing like that. I'm glad because you never want, especially at this age, you never want to do that, man. I don't got time to sit and fight, man. Ain't in no damn UFC. What the hell I look like, man? That shit is exhausting. What the hell I'm doing, man? You try to fight somebody for 10 seconds at my age, y'all say, fight somebody for 10 seconds. Or even if you beating the person up, beat somebody for 10 seconds and see how it feels. Afterwards, you'll be, oh shit, damn, you sure he didn't beat me up? Damn, so, so got time for that. So luckily it didn't happen like that. And luckily, hopefully the man gets help that he needs so he won't do this again because the next time might be his last time. So, it's I'm glad things didn't end the way that I'm glad they ended the way they ended and everybody was able to walk away, so like I said, it's a traumatic experience a little bit, but you get past it. In life, you get past it, you move forward, and you just roll with the punches. That's life. That is life. Like I said, next, trying to do this new format where I talk about, like I said, on Mondays, talk a little bit about sports and stuff. So, not, like I said, I'm not saying I'm not no NFL insider, and I'm not going to sit up there and just try to, break it down like that. But we'll talk about it in the way we talk about it, the way I talk about it, man. Just talk, we some things we might explore, more than other things, So whatever we can talk about, man. So that's how we're gonna do it. And I'm real with it. I don't, hold no favorites and nothing like that. We talk about how we see it. If you're good, you're good. You're not, you're not. And I ain't saying, and I have never played. I've never played in the NFL. I didn't make it that far. I made it to college. So I played, I played high school. People know me. I played high school, played Clinton High School, played, throughout my high school career, I played four sports. I played football, played basketball, played baseball. I ran track. I did baseball and track. I did, one season of each because I just, I've tried, just things didn't, maybe because by that time in my life, I was getting burnt out a little bit. So, but, with that being said, I've had, and I didn't put up the biggest number. No, don't got the best numbers. I don't have no football in the trophy case. I don't have no memorable 1,000-yard season and nothing. I got some good no touchdowns, nice moments. Do have nice little moments, but collectively, no. I don't have I was on some decent teams that won, conference championships. I was on a state championship undefeated football team. I wasn't, I was a sophomore. I didn't have a big role. I kicked off. I was, backed up on defense and offense. So, just wasn't, I played, a couple of teams, after that. That was the only success I had, like at a state level. And most times after that, just won like conference championships and stuff. And that was, a little success in winning, lost in the playoffs. But, I did have a full, and I thought about it. I did have a full career. I didn't, so I didn't have put up the lofty numbers. I didn't have I can't separate and say the best, the seasons and all that, I did a lot of points. I did have a few yards in football, but not anything to say, oh my God, anything to say, hey, look at me, pop my collar about, no. But I haven't done this in my high school career. I've done all this. I've done, scored a touchdown, offensive, caught a touchdown. I ran for a touchdown. I didn't throw a touchdown. Let's see, I kicked field goals. I kicked off. Didn't punt. I scored defensive. I didn't have an interception. Did I? No, I had it in practice. I never had an interception. I had two defensive touchdowns. No, actually, I had two. I had a defensive touchdown where I blocked. A punt was blocked by my man James Dawson. Shout out to JD, my man JD. He blocked two punts. Matter of fact, we did it twice in the same season within 3 games of each other. He blocked the punt, and I scored a touchdown. So I've done that. I didn't shoot 3, so I didn't hit 3. I dunked on somebody. Nothing like all that. All that, a lot of people can make claims, all that stuff like that. But here I won a 200 million-yard dash, and they still don't put me in a rare situation. But through all that, I'm gonna tell you one other thing that does it, that probably would separate what I've done for a lot of other people. I did all that. And on top of that, I had a walk-off grand slam home run. Yes. And that right there is probably the greatest feeling I had in my life for playing sports. Out of all the sports I played, I had walk-off grand slam home run. That was the pinnacle. So that was great, man. That was great. I don't because I set up for a little bit, I just bring my man, shout out to my man Keith Fennell. One love, my man. I'm glad when Duke Carolina start playing so we can cut it up. You say I'm gonna hit you up here during Duke Carolina. We're gonna hit it up by Duke. He's a Duke fan, I'm a Carolina fan. We talk about it. Yeah, my man. But yeah, let me set it up. We was down, back then the high school games were 7 innings. So it was in the bottom of the 7th inning. We was at home and we was playing against a team called CBA Cop. And they were it was a 3-1 at the bottom of the start of the 7th inning, and we had fought back. We had 2 outs. We had fought back to a 3-3 tie, and we had got hits and everything, and we had bases were loaded. So I had already calculated. I said the only way I would come up the bat is if the bases were loaded. And lo and behold, the boys fought. I forgot all the players on my team. It was Chris Manley, Ron Carter, Chad Brewer, Kevin Murphy, James Dawson, Michael Matthews play? I think he did. Did Jim Freckall play? There's some other. I'm just trying to ruin my teammates. All y'all, give a shout out to y'all, man. And anybody else I forgot, I'm sorry, man. It's been a long time since this, so I'm sorry. It was way back in 1990, so it was a long time ago. So like I said, they came up. They tied the game. They tied the game. The base was loaded, and it was 2 outs. And I got up the bat. I still remember it. He pitched me 2 pitches. He pitched me 1 pitch, a curveball, and it went into the dirt up short. And in my mind, as a hitter, I said, he looked at me. I said, he probably the next. He said he's down 1 ball. He hit 1 ball, 0 strikes. I said his next pitch, he's probably frustrated. He said he's probably going to try to throw the ball straight down the middle. And that's exactly what he did. And I had a jump on it. And I hit it center field. And I know I hit that ball 400 feet. I hit that ball so hard and so high. I hit that ball so hard and so high that the second baseman on the other team gave me dap on the way. He said, man, that was a nice hit, man. That was the best feeling. And like I said, the players, once I got around to the home plate, the players like picked me up and carried me to the dugout. That was, like I said, that was the greatest as an athlete. Period. That was the greatest moment in my life as far as that was the great. Sorry, not the ceiling. Knock the mic out my damn hand. But yeah, it gave me the greatest feeling as far as feeling good about yourself, self-confidence, and everything. Because I had a tough baseball season that year. I had actually thought about quitting because of circumstances on the team and stuff. And for me to have that was a great accomplishment and satisfaction. So yeah. So like I said, with that being said, I played for. Like I said, I was good enough. I don't want to talk about all of that, like going what school I went to and all that. I don't care. It's a whole nother situation. I don't want to get into all that. That's recruiting. I don't care about that. The fact is, I went to college football, and I thought about this. This is one thing, and there's a difference too between. It don't matter what division you're in, college 1, 2, or 3. There's a big difference between Division 1. There's a big difference between college football and high school football. And that is, I got in a big culture shock one time. Let me tell you when I knew the difference. When we played football, when we practiced football in high school and before high school, coming up and in high school, every time after we practice football, we put stuff up and the stuff we take on, but we put our clothes on and we went home. And we, took care of ourselves and cleaned ourselves and all that. So when you go to college, you play football, and this applies to all of them. When you play football, you go to after you practice or after you play, after you do all that, you go in the locker, you put your clothes we had to put our clothes in a mesh bag, and we had to go shower. And that was the first time ever. And y'all understand what I'm saying? I'm telling you. We had to shower like we was in prison. We had to shower a whole 50 showers. Imagine someone you never seen that before. Imagine walking into a shower and you seeing 50 naked men. That made me rethink football right there. For that brief moment, I thought about leaving. That was a shock, man. I ain't never seen that, man. That was, you go in there, man, you look like you working at the damn fucking sausage floor for Lundy's Packing Company, man. What in the world, man? Walking there and say, oh my God. You said we're trying to wash, man. You got all these players like that, and everybody just laughing, joking, butt naked. And you got to do all that. And that was every single day. That what you had to deal with. Every football player, it don't matter if you deal with, I don't care, all my players from Clinton. I know all my players from Clinton, all the boys from Clinton, they'll play college football when they went there. You asked them the first time what was in their mind the first time they walked in there and seen the shower, they seen every football team, all of them that do that. They wash and everything right there. Then you take a shower and clean up and you leave out like that. After them games, all of them go in the shower. Yeah, just like that. That was tough to deal with. I had to get used to that. That took a while, and I still didn't get used to that. Still there. And that incident, in football is just a unique sport like that, and it's just unique, period. And I know like a few years ago, I remember the big issue. It was a few years ago. I remember this. I remember the player. What was his name from Missouri, and he got drafted by St. Louis. His name was Michael Sams. and he decided, and I was just sure his heart was in the right place. So he decided to come out, being gay before he got drafted. And it definitely affected his draft status because in college, he was a great player. I think he might have been SEC Defensive Player of the Year his senior year. Man, that alone right there should get you first round. I forgot which round he went in, but he dropped all because he made that announcement. And what people got to understand, man, it's not about being anti-gay and nothing like that, man. It's just the way that culture is, man. It's just you can't. That will be a distraction. That will be a distraction, man. That will be a distraction. Period. And there's just no way else to put it, man. How can you expect your tackle to worry about the quarterback backside when he worry about his damn backside? I mean, how you expect that man to perform on that type of pressure, man? For real. For real, man. For real, man. How you expect them damn players out there to have the damn fire in their eye? And they still here worrying about whether one of their players got sugar in their damn booty, man. You can't be having that on the football field, man. So it's just, like I said, man, not to be anti, it's not being that, man. Just, it's just the way football players, interact with each other. That right there would not mix, man. It would not. Because it would provide a distraction to all them players, and it would not end well. Just I understand why. I'm sorry, Aperture, man. He seemed like he was a good person. Like he was a decent player, man. But that factor alone with him, man, it's just too hard, man. Just they can, What's so sad is if NFL they can deal with it. They can deal with certain things in their locker room. They deal with certain. There are different types of people in the NFL locker room. Trust me, the spectrum goes both ways. But one thing they would not accept that because that would do something to take out the fabric of the team. That will undercut them. That will undercut any team. So I understand why that will be a distraction. They wouldn't do that. So that's why, like I said, that Michael Sam's experiment, it happened. That I don't think you have to worry about that. Not anytime now. Like, no. Huh? So I mean, just the way it is. That game is so unique, man. It's not, man, let's keep it real. It's not gay friendly as far as players playing, like notable, like people that's announcing that they are, freely saying they are, and being able to perform out there and play out there like that. Now, I don't think that's ever going to happen out there because that sport is too, got too much testosterone in that sport, man. It's just, yeah, I'm sorry, it's just the way it is, but, oh well. But getting back to that, yeah, that's why it made me rethink. That was the difference between playing college football and high school. That's when you was on a different level when you did that. Like I said, every college player, every high school player went to college. I think they probably experienced that the first time. I ain't talking about all the time. The very first time they went there and seen that, it probably, yes. Felt like they was on Smith. Felt like they were working in Smithfield Packing on the damn sausage floor. For real. But yeah. Like I said, with that being said, like I said, when we about to start, when football start, like I said, Monday, because all the games on Sunday and stuff, we're gonna try to Monday, try to talk a little bit about it unless something come up, man, but we're gonna keep it like that, sports related, and try like Wednesdays to talk about life, relationships, health, and stuff. And Friday, keep it sort of like the current events, whatever popping. I don't know. Maybe they had maybe that Thursday night game was jumping, and we might talk about that a little bit. So we'll see what's going on, man. But yeah, we're trying to, kick it up, trying to keep, bringing it, keep improving, keep getting better, keep doing our thing, help bringing you the best I could, bring you the best of me, and I'm glad to see the support. I'm glad to see the love, to hear about the people that's listening to it. I appreciate all of y'all, man. don't understand, man. If I can't, I can't dap you up. I'm dapping you right now. I'm dapping you right now. Giving love to everybody, man. To show love, all my boys and everything, man. I appreciate you, man. And yeah, we're gonna start doing that, man. I can bring, start having the host up, having guests up here, man. We'll be able to chat it up, man. Bring my boys up here. We can see what's going on, man. We can talk about it. We can talk about what's going on. Shout out to my man, Lewis Jenkins. Let's talk about it with Lou J, man. Y'all hit that up. That's a good man. He gave me an opportunity. He helped me out, and I want to pay it forward. And I get an opportunity, so, Lewis Jenkins, shout out, my brother, man. Like I said, I'm hoping, to bring him up here. Hoping to be back up there with him, man, because I think we had a good vibe, and I like the way we kicked it. So, we're gonna do that again. With that being said, I have to get out of here. Got things to do. I appreciate y'all for being here with me. We're gonna be back here Monday. Like I always say, kiss your kids, kiss your loved ones. Y'all have a good weekend. Tell them you love them. Tell them, tell them how you feel. Don't keep stuff bottled up, man. Stress will kill you. And keep, don't keep stuff bottled up. Let people know how you feel, because you might not get a chance, man. Don't put stuff off. You might not get a chance to do it again. I love all of y'all. Y'all have a good weekend. Y'all be safe out there. Stay cool, stay hydrated, drink a lot of water. It's hot out there. Peace out.